form a two-handed circle. There's only two people allowed in this circle. We make a circle with two hands.
For years, Steve Harvey has built his empire on comedy, talk shows, and motivational speeches about love and relationships. But off-camera, his own love life has been far from the fairy tale he preaches. While he rose higher and higher in fame, his ex-wife kept quiet, allowing the world to believe in his picture-perfect story. Now, at 64, she's finally breaking her silence, and what she's revealing about their divorce isn't just explosive. It threatens to shatter the polished image Harvey has spent decades creating. From Welch to the world stage, the making of Steve Harvey. Before the world knew him as Steve Harvey, the sharp-dressed king of comedy and daytime TV, he was just Broderick Stephen Harvey, a boy born in Welch, West Virginia in 1957. The son of a coal miner and the youngest of 5 kids, Harvey's beginnings were anything but glamorous. He struggled with a stutter that made even the simplest words a battlefield. Yet deep down, he carried a dream far bigger than his circumstances. In 6th grade, when asked to write down his future ambitions, Harvey boldly put on paper that he wanted to be on television. His teacher dismissed it as arrogance and even mocked him to his father. But Jesse Harvey didn't laugh. He believed in his son. Years later, when that pipe dream became a reality, Steve made sure that teacher never forgot it. He sent her a brand new television every Christmas until she died. From Welch, the family moved to Cleveland, settling on East 112th Street. Decades later, the block would be renamed Steve Harvey Way, a permanent stamp of how far he had come. Harvey graduated from Glenville High in 1974, carrying both ambition and scars from a childhood of constant challenges. College, however, wasn't his victory lap. Enrolling at Kent State, he joined the Omega Psi Phi fraternity and chased a degree in advertising. But the textbooks never clicked the way his dreams did. Within 2 years, he had flunked out. He later admitted that failure sent his life spiraling, leaving him with one of his deepest regrets: not finishing his degree. Still, that stumble didn't bury him. If anything, it became part of the legend. The story of a man who refused to let broken beginnings, a stutter, or even failure itself keep him from rewriting his fate. And that's where the story takes its turn. Because the same man who once couldn't find his footing in a classroom would soon find his voice on a stage. The streets of Cleveland might have carried his name, but it was comedy that would carry his legacy. Kings of comedy to king of TV, a career built on laughter and hustle. Before the suits, the best-selling books, and the empire of TV shows, Steve Harvey was just another man clawing his way through survival jobs. He boxed, he worked in factories, sold insurance, scrubbed carpets, even delivered mail. Each hustle felt like a dead end, another patch in a life with no direction. But on October 8th, 1985, something changed. He walked onto the stage at Hilarity's Comedy Club in Cleveland, picked up a microphone, and set his life on fire. That night, a man with no roadmap found the spark that would carry him through the chaos ahead. Comedy gave Harvey what those other jobs never could: a chance to dream out loud. Yet chasing that dream came at a brutal cost. By the late 80s, the grind had chewed him up and spat him out. Harvey was homeless for 3 years, living out of a beat-up 1976 Ford. Nights meant curling up in the front seat unless a gig came with a hotel room. Showers weren't promised. They came in gas stations, public pools, wherever water was available. To the outside world, he looked like another failed dreamer. But Harvey refused to surrender. His lifeline came in the form of Rich and Becky Liss, who handed him a carpet cleaning contract and credit at their travel agency. That small act of faith was enough to keep him afloat, long enough to keep chasing the stage. By 1990, the gamble started paying off. After years of bombing in small clubs and sleeping in his car, Harvey became a finalist in the second annual Johnny Walker National Comedy Search. Suddenly, he wasn't just another comic hustling for scraps. He was on the national radar. That momentum carried him to Showtime at the Apollo, where he took over hosting duties from Mark Curry. For years, Harvey became the face of Apollo, commanding that legendary stage with charm and spot-on timing that made him stand out. Hollywood soon came knocking. In 1994, ABC cast him in Me and the Boys, a short-lived sitcom that gave Harvey his first taste of leading man status. The bigger win came 2 years later with The Steve Harvey Show on the WB. Running from 1996 to 2002, the series wasn't a critic's darling, but it found its home with audiences, particularly in the African-American community. As the smooth-talking Chicago music teacher, Harvey cemented his place as more than just a stand-up act. He was now a television star. Still, the stage was his heartbeat. In 1997, Harvey joined Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hewley, and Bernie Mac for the Kings of Comedy tour. What began as a bold experiment turned into history. $18 million in the first year, $19 million in the second, making it the highest-grossing comedy tour of its time. Spike Lee turned it into The Original Kings of Comedy, a documentary that put Harvey's name alongside the greats. That title later birthed his variety show, Steve Harvey's Big Time Challenge, where he mixed comedy with spectacle and proved that his hustle had no ceiling. By the early 2000s, Harvey was no longer just surviving. He was building an empire. In 2000, he launched the Steve Harvey Morning Show, a syndicated radio program that gave him a daily stage to blend humor with blunt relationship advice. Hollywood kept calling too. He popped up in films like The Fighting Temptations alongside Cuba Gooding Jr. and Beyoncé, Love Don't Cost a Thing, Johnson Family Vacation, and even voiced a wisecracking horsefly in the animated flick Racing Stripes. Every role, whether in front of a camera or behind a microphone, stretched his reach just a little further. Then, in 2006, Harvey flipped expectations again. He dropped a stand-up special, Don't Trip. He Ain't Through With Me Yet, filmed at MegaFest. This time, he cut the profanity, choosing instead to lean on his storytelling skills. It was proof that he didn't need shock value to make people laugh. Around the same time, his focus widened beyond comedy. In 2008, he began hosting Disney's Dreamers Academy, mentoring young people to chase their ambitions just as he once did when he had nothing but a car and a dream. But the boldest pivot came in 2009. Harvey, who had built his career making people laugh, released a book that made women sit up and listen. Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man cracked open the male psyche, offering women blunt advice on dating and relationships. The book spent 64 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, with 23 weeks at #1. Its influence spilled into Hollywood, inspiring the 2012 film Think Like a Man, which became a box office smash. Overnight, Harvey wasn't just a comedian, a host, or an actor. He was an author whose words reshaped the dating conversation across America. And then came the reinvention that redefined everything: Family Feud. The success of Family Feud. In 2010, Harvey stepped in as Family Feud's host, and suddenly, a decades-old game show was hot again. His quick wit, expressive reactions, and no-nonsense banter doubled the show's ratings and turned it into appointment television. Audiences weren't just watching contestants. They were watching Harvey, a man who could turn even the most awkward survey answers into comedy gold. Under his watch, Family Feud didn't just survive, it thrived. Harvey's run became the longest in the show's history, tying his name permanently to the franchise. But fame rarely comes without turbulence. In 2011, Harvey found himself in the hot seat when, during a radio segment, he referred to Cornel West and Tavis Smiley as Uncle Toms for their criticism of President Barack Obama. Backlash followed. Harvey later apologized for the phrase, though he stood firm on his political stance. Meanwhile, his empire kept expanding. In 2012, he launched his own daytime talk show. By 2013, he made history as the first person to be nominated for both Outstanding Talk Show Host and Outstanding Game Show Host at the Daytime Emmys. The motivational side of Harvey became louder too. In 2016, after a taping of Family Feud, he delivered an unplanned speech about jumping into your gifts, comparing talent to a parachute that only works if you leap. The raw clip went viral, spawning his book, Jump. Take the leap of faith to achieve your life of abundance. By the time Alabama State University awarded him an honorary doctorate in 2016, Steve Harvey had reinvented himself so many times it was hard to pin him down. He was a comedian, an actor, a radio host, a game show king, an author, a mentor, a motivational speaker, even a pageant host who turned disaster into a long-running gig. From sleeping in his car to commanding some of the biggest stages in the world, Harvey's story has been raw, messy, and dramatic. But that's exactly why people keep watching. Every reinvention wasn't just about career survival. It was about proving that failure doesn't end a story. Sometimes, it writes the next chapter. 3 marriages, 1 scandal. The untold story of Harvey's love life. When it comes to the stage, Steve Harvey has always known how to deliver a punchline. But when it comes to love, his journey has been less of a smooth ride and more of a roller coaster ride, complete with heartbreak, scandal, and eventually, redemption. Today, at 68, the comedy king who built an empire on laughter, talk shows, and motivational speeches about relationships finally has the love story he always wanted. And yes, after 2 failed marriages, his 3rd union with Marjorie Harvey has turned out to be the one that stuck. Harvey has been married to Marjorie since 2007. For both of them, it was the 3rd walk down the aisle. But this time, it clicked. 18 years later, their bond has become his strongest and most celebrated relationship yet. Just last year, when Marjorie turned 60, Harvey marked the milestone with a tribute on Instagram, calling her his baby and showering her with love in front of millions. The photo showed them smiling brightly, caught mid-kiss, the image of a couple who had defied the odds. The origin story of their romance has become something of a legend. Back in 2018, during a break on Harvey's talk show, the pair revealed that their connection first sparked in Memphis at one of his comedy shows. Marjorie explained that she had walked in late, bracing herself for a comedian's wrath. But instead of roasting her, Steve froze. He simply stared, leaving the audience in suspense, before announcing that he didn't know who she was, but he was going to marry her. Harvey himself admitted that when he saw her for the first time, he stopped breathing. Years later, in 2014, Harvey recalled the moment he proposed, whisking Marjorie away to Cabo and slipping a diamond ring into her dessert on their very first night. But Marjorie isn't just known for her love story with Steve. She's built her own empire. She runs the luxury lifestyle brand The Lady Loves Couture, co-leads the Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation, and has earned a reputation as the Queen of Slaycations, traveling the world in high style. Together, the Harveys have scaled Sydney's Harbour Bridge, sailed yachts across the Mediterranean, soaked in Italy's charm, and even made a homecoming journey to Ghana in 2019. Their adventures play out like a curated reel of love, fashion, and success. But behind today's picture-perfect story is a rocky past filled with marriages that didn't last. Steve's first wife, Marcia Harvey, married him back in 1981. when he was still selling insurance in Ohio and chasing comedy on the side. Their relationship crumbled under the strain of his budding career, with Harvey gone for long stretches on the road. By 1994, the marriage was over. Marcia, however, has kept her life low profile, later reinventing herself as an author. Then came marriage number 2 to Mary Shackelford. Harvey and Mary tied the knot in 1996, but their relationship was doomed long before the wedding rings. Harvey reportedly began seeing Mary while still married to Marcia, and the years that followed were messy. By 2005, the marriage had dissolved, but the fallout would haunt him for years. In 2011, Mary spoke out, unleashing a storm of accusations that Steve had cheated on her with Marjorie. She claimed she had found a private letter from his mistress and painted a picture of betrayal that clashed with Harvey's carefully cultivated public image. Courts later admonished her for false claims of being left penniless, but the damage to Harvey's reputation was already done. Despite the chaos of his past, Harvey's third marriage gave him a chance to build something lasting. And not just with Marjorie, but with their blended family. Between his children from previous marriages and Marjorie's kids from her past relationships, Harvey became the proud father of 7, later adopting Marjorie's 3 children as his own. He shares twins Brandy and Carly, along with son Broderick Jr. with Marcia and son Winton with Mary. Through Marjorie, he gained stepkids Jason, Morgan, and Lori, the last of whom has become one of Hollywood's most talked-about models. Lori Harvey has kept her father's name in the headlines almost as much as Steve himself. She's dated music and movie heavyweights, from rapper Future to Sean Diddy Combs to actor Michael B. Jordan. For a while, she and Jordan were the golden couple of the moment, so much so that the actor once admitted he would jump at the chance to appear on Harvey's Celebrity Family Feud. The relationship eventually ended in 2022. But beyond his children, Harvey's role as a grandfather has brought another layer to his family life. He now has 8 grandchildren. Jason's 5 kids, Rose, Ezra, Noah, Joey, and Luz Aya, lead the pack, while Morgan has 2 daughters, Elle and Marley. His daughter Carly also has a son named Benjamin, or BJ, in honor of his father, Ben Raymond. In 2022, Harvey reflected on everything his marriage to Marjorie had given him. Writing an anniversary letter in Good Housekeeping, he confessed that outside of God's grace, she was the single biggest reason he had achieved the life he lived. He owed her, he wrote, a debt of gratitude that words could never fully repay. From failed marriages to messy divorces to finally finding his lifelong partner, Steve Harvey's love story reads like one of his comedy routines, filled with missteps, shocking twists, and, in the end, a punchline that makes it all worth it. From doting grandfather to devoted husband, Harvey's family life had finally given him the grounding he once thought impossible. But rewind the tape, and the picture wasn't always so secure. Before the Instagram tributes, the blended family vacations, and the glow of stability with Marjorie, there was a chapter so messy it nearly cost him everything. A divorce so brutal, it left Harvey staring at rock bottom with nothing but faith to hold on to. The messy divorce. Before Steve Harvey became the big-dollar man of Family Feud, he was staring into the abyss. The result was a devastating divorce that nearly erased everything he had built. Back in 2005, despite having a hit sitcom, The Steve Harvey Show, and being the co-star of the record-smashing Kings of Comedy tour, the comedian found himself stripped bare by betrayal, tax debts, and court battles. On the Club Shay Shay podcast, he revealed the cruel twist. Someone he trusted had stolen his tax reserve funds, and then his ex walked away with the rest of the assets. What remained was a 7-year IRS bill loaded with interest. At the end of the mess, The man who once grossed over $37 million on tour was left with just $1,700 to his name. His second divorce wasn't just financial, it started a legal warfare. Mary Shackelford launched a series of public accusations claiming her soul was murdered, accusing Harvey of torture, child endangerment, and even kidnapping. She filed for $60 million in damages. A judge dismissed the lawsuit in 2018, partly due to jurisdiction issues, since this was a Texas divorce being brought in LA. During the fallout, Mary was court-ordered to take down her videos, barred from media talk via a gag order, and even spent 30 days jailed for contempt. Through the chaos, Steve was scrambling to survive. He punched back, not with passive tweets, but with hustle. In the same year he hit rock bottom, he launched the Steve Harvey Morning Show. It became America's #1 syndicated radio show, a lifeline that rebuilt his bottom line. Soon he was hosting Miss Universe, despite that viral 2015 blunder, and commanding Family Feud for about $3.6 million per season. Fast forward to 2022, Judge Steve Harvey premiered. He leaned not on legal training but on decades of experience, humor, and common sense to dig up the story behind why people came to court versus what they're in court for. But here's the catch. Reinvention doesn't erase the mess. It only buries it for a while. And with Harvey, the past had a way of clawing back to the surface. The man selling family values and faith on daytime TV was the same man fighting off headlines about lawsuits, betrayals, and controversies that refused to die. Divorces, tax woes, and Miss Universe mayhem when Harvey's image cracked. On television, Steve Harvey is the quick-talking host who can charm a crowd, crack a joke in seconds, and turn even the most awkward game show moment into viral gold. But behind that image lies a trail of scandals, messy divorces, and jaw-dropping controversies that have followed him like shadows he can't quite shake. For years, Harvey has built his empire on family values, faith, and advice about love. Yet the story of his own life tells a much darker tale, one filled with infidelity, financial disputes, tone-deaf remarks, and a stubborn loyalty to figures who fell from grace. One of the most unsettling chapters in Harvey's history is his public support for Bill Cosby. To Harvey, Cosby was more than just another comedian. He was a mentor, someone whose career had paved the way for black entertainers in television and comedy. But when Cosby's long-hidden crimes began spilling into the light, Harvey didn't exactly distance himself. More than 50 women accused Cosby of drugging and assaulting them across decades. By 2018, the man once known as America's Dad was convicted and sentenced to prison. While Hollywood cut ties, Harvey revealed in an interview that his loyalty didn't vanish. He explained that when he reached out to Cosby during the scandal, Cosby told him to stay away, so he wouldn't be dragged into the mess. Even then, Harvey stressed that when he calls someone a friend, that bond doesn't break. It was a stance that placed him squarely at odds with public opinion, and one that many saw as a glaring crack in his otherwise family-friendly image. Harvey's controversies haven't just been about friendships, though. His financial dealings have sparked their own share of drama. In 2015, he was sued by Business Aircraft Leasing Inc. for refusing to pay more than $200,000 in customizations on a private jet. The upgrades weren't small requests either. Harvey allegedly wanted luxury changes like seat removals and redecorated interiors, totaling nearly $400,000. The company claimed Harvey promised to lease the plane for $97,000 a month once the changes were complete. But after paying only part of the bill, Harvey allegedly refused to settle the rest. The case was eventually dropped the following year after the two parties struck a business deal, but the lawsuit painted Harvey as a man whose taste for luxury occasionally outpaced his willingness to pay. Ironically, that very jet later became a stage for his high-profile fashion videos with Marjorie, where the couple flaunted designer looks before takeoff. To fans, it looked like glamour. To critics, it was just another reminder of the lawsuit he quietly escaped. No scandal list involving Harvey would be complete without the infamous Miss Universe disaster. In 2015, with millions of viewers watching live, Harvey mistakenly crowned Miss Columbia as the winner, only to realize moments later that the real title holder was Miss Philippines. The mix-up triggered a media frenzy, endless memes, and weeks of social media ridicule. Most hosts would never have been invited back, but Harvey not only returned, he hosted the event 4 more times, and yet he couldn't escape further controversy. In 2019, when Colombian contestant Gabriela Tafur joked on stage about his past mistake, Harvey shot back with a comment referencing Colombian cartels. Audiences recoiled. Many took to social media, demanding an apology and calling the remark disrespectful and ignorant. Instead of healing the wounds from his first blunder, Harvey dug himself deeper, proving once again that his mouth could be his own worst enemy. But, through it all, Harvey has managed to keep his empire intact. He still hosts Family Feud. He still leads his morning radio show. He still appears as a motivational figure preaching about faith, family, and relationships. But each controversy, from his loyalty to Cosby, to the divorce accusations, to the careless jokes, chips away at his image. To his fans, Harvey remains the charming host who can make anyone laugh. To his critics, he's proof that even the biggest smiles can hide cracks. And the truth is, no matter how many millions he makes or how many stages he commands, Steve Harvey's name will always be followed by the scandals that refuse to stay buried. And just when it seemed Harvey had outrun his scandals, the past clawed its way back in the form of Mary Shackelford. At 64, Steve Harvey's ex-wife breaks silence on her divorce. The ex-wife of Steve Harvey is back in the news again, and she isn't holding back. Mary Shackelford, who once set the internet ablaze during her post-divorce publicity rounds back in 2005, has resurfaced with the same fire in her voice, and this time, the sting cuts deeper. Her accusations remain the same: betrayal, infidelity, and being left to pick up the pieces of a life that was once gilded with Steve's fame and fortune. Mary has long claimed that Steve's marriage to Marjorie Bridges wasn't built on new beginnings, but on broken vows. She revealed that she began finding evidence of Steve's alleged infidelity as early as their 2nd anniversary. Still, the couple stayed together for 16 years, a long stretch of time that, according to her, was riddled with heartbreak and secrets. Now, nearly 2 decades later, Mary insists she is still living with the scars. During recent interviews, her pain was palpable. Observers noted that she appeared less like a bitter ex-wife and more like a woman who has never been given closure. She made it clear that she simply wants acknowledgement, but she admitted she has been waiting for recognition from people who have made it their business to erase her from their lives. In her words, she still longs for something as small as a phone call from Steve and Marjorie, though she also stressed that what she truly wants is justice, recognition, and compensation for what she lost. Mary painted a picture of devastation, stating that Steve had stripped her of everything. She alleged that after the divorce, she was evicted from her home, her wealth was taken, and her only son was turned against her. She recalled that Steve won custody of their son, Winton, a battle she confessed she was never truly prepared for. Steve had the powerhouse legal team, while Mary was left to fight without the same resources. In court, her own missteps gave his lawyers what they needed to prove her unfit at the time. That custody loss still haunts her today. Over the years, Mary has claimed that she has had zero contact with Winton. At one point, she was even arrested over a child support order that she insisted she had no knowledge of. To this day, a gag order remains in place, effectively silencing her while Steve continues to build his empire. So why is Mary back in the spotlight now, after 12 years of silence? Some would argue she's bitter. Others would say she's still wounded, still broken. The truth may be both. Mary admitted that after her divorce, she was cut off from the glamorous lifestyle she once lived. The designers who once begged her to wear their fashions stopped taking her calls. A-list friends stopped inviting her to brunch. And the financial freedom she once enjoyed disappeared. Legally, she wasn't left with nothing. Records show that Mary was awarded 3 of Steve's homes, along with $40,000 per month, nearly $500,000 annually, until 2009. After that, she received a one-time payment of $1.9 million. But in Mary's eyes, this was a fraction of what she deserved. She made her position unmistakable, stating that she wanted justice for the 16 years she invested in Steve's rise. She argued that she had been with him when he had nothing, and for that reason, she earned her stake in everything he has now. Mary declared that half of everything Steve and Marjorie built after 2005 should rightfully belong to her. She accused them of living lavishly, traveling, and shopping, while she carried the trauma of being discarded and forgotten. She questioned how they could call themselves Christians while ignoring the suffering of Winton's mother. Mary confessed that her grievances are not just about money, but about acknowledgement. She described herself as living with torment, constantly replaying the betrayal in her head, in her sleep, and in her dreams. She stressed that she would not stop speaking until she got what she deserved. For her, the ultimate resolution would be for all parties to sit down and talk. But she admitted that Steve and Marjorie have no interest in reconciliation. In her most searing words, Mary vowed that she would not remain silent. She insisted she wanted her money, her share of the wealth, and the lifestyle she once lived. She said she would keep talking until she reclaimed the life she believes was stolen from her. And while Steve Harvey's career continues to flourish on television screens across America, Mary Harvey's voice rings out from the shadows, raw, unrelenting, and determined to remind the world that behind the glossy family image lies a woman who refuses to be erased. What are our thoughts on what Mary said? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.